And I will refer to
Handout.
Margaret.
Do we need to introduce ourselves? I haven't done this that many times.
Do you have to what?
Do we have to introduce ourselves?
No.
No, okay. So, I'm gonna start this conversation off, although I have to leave a little early, so I'll leave it in Andrea and James's hands. But, so what we have before us is, everybody should have gotten, the three, qualification statements that we received. So they were from Bond Brothers, Colantonio, and W.T. Rich. And so the purposes of the meeting tonight is to comment on what everybody saw in the qualifications, and to make a decision about whether we are going to ask all of them or only some of them to respond to the next stage, which is a request for proposal, which includes both some detailed responses to questions about the project and a price proposal, a competitive price proposal. And because it's a competitive price proposal, we definitely encourage you to shortlist at least two, and in this case, since we have three, we may decide to do three. That's the purpose of the meeting. And I think also, because this is the same group that will participate in the review of the RFP and the interviews, to think about what questions the review of these qualifications suggest about the interview process. So hopefully everybody's got this little one-page thing. So I thought what we would do is first we'll talk about these and sort of comment, and James is going to take notes on that. Mm-hmm. We're going to share with you our kind of very detailed scoring after we've had that conversation, to see whether it accurately, whether it sort of adds another layer of information to what we've already talked about. Then I would suggest that we talk about the interview structure. In the RFQ, we did propose a date for the interviews, which we asked them to hold. So I want to confirm that that date works, and if it doesn't work, we should change it tonight to a date that does work and get the interviews scheduled. And then talk about questions for the interview, which we do not need to finalize tonight, but I think it's kind of the most useful moment to do that. And then if there's time, James also has a copy of what the price proposal form looks like that he can share, so you can sort of see the level of detail that the pricing comes back. And there may be an opportunity to talk about the scoring for the RFP. So that's it.
Question on the financial statement, do we get a copy of that, or is that strictly with you people?
So they, in the process, we typically hold them. We don't share them publicly, and then we score them.
So the committee here doesn't
However,
look
I
at
mean,
them?
I think if you want to designate one member of the committee to take a look at them, I think that would be fine. We just don't share them publicly.
Yeah, I understand, but I think that maybe the committee should, at least one member, take a look at it. I know in one of the proposals, they did include the
Right.
financial statement there, but two of them
Right.
were. I don't think there's any question, but we'd still like to
Yeah.
just
that would
see
be
them for the
fine.
sake of it.
Yeah, Rich.
So do you want to be the designee for that, to look at them?
I'm not really that versed in, I mean, I look at numbers, I look at the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else that's more astute in accounting. I mean, Larry's chairman of the finance committee, I don't know, you want to take a look at him? Or?
I can. I have an MBA, so I might have some qualifications.
There you go. You want to take that on? We'll send them to you.
Sure.
And we can explain
I
how.
doubt very seriously I'm going to find anything different, but
Yeah.
I can certainly take a look at it.
As long as our eyes have seen it, that's all I think, that we're doing due diligence on our end, I think.
And when we look at them, we look at a couple of key ratios. I'll explain to you what those are
Right.
when we sort of talk. And in this case, they all did fine on that measurement. During the economic downturn, we looked at these more carefully, but our business is booming right now, and most contractor spreadsheets are in pretty good shape. So, okay, so we'll do that.
I have a definite conflict with the 15th.
Okay.
Can't get out.
Do we want to try and pick a date, or you want to wait till the end? Should we get it over with?
About the 25th.
Do you have a preference, Joe? I think there is a meeting,
On the 20th, right?
We have a meeting on the
20th.
29th.
That's the full.
29th?
We have a meeting on the 29th.
The 20th,
Of
right?
November.
Tuesday.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm thinking
December?
December
December.
20th.
We have the
Yes.
29th of November, the 20th of December.
14th? Is the 14th which is better, which is a
What day is that?
Wednesday?
Wednesday for us.
That's a school committee meeting.
Not sure.
Yeah.
CBC.
Tuesdays, I mean, I know we ended up on Thursdays because Thursdays were good. Yeah. So the only Thursdays we have are the 8th, which is the day before the RFP is due, so that's not going to work. The 15th, the 22nd, which you said there already is a meeting then?
No, the 20th, there is a meeting.
Oh, the 20th. So how about the 22nd, which is the day before the
Of
eve?
December?
Mhm.
22nd of December.
I remember that was shot down last time, I can't remember why.
Well, yeah,
20,
because we were gonna hold a
25th, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Pine Grove Building Committee that day.
When is it due? What the RFP is?
It's due to us on the 9th of December.
Be nice if it was a little closer to the 9th versus the 25th. I just think, also in terms of getting their engagement.
Mhm.
What about Thursday, December 1st?
It's gotta
It
be
has to
after
be
the
after
9th.
the 9th.
After
And it
the
doesn't
ninth,
have to
got
be,
it.
from our perspective, it doesn't have to be a Thursday, so. The 14th, I just happen to know is already kind of a
Yep.
double book day for us.
Yeah.
What about
Trying
the
to unwind
13th,
that day.
or the 13th, and even the 16th?
Well, we're
13th is
meeting on the
good.
15th anyway, right, for, that's a district communication, that's not this meeting, okay, that's a different one.
Right.
How about the
The 12th?
13th?
13th, 14th would be fine.
Well, you
13th,
can't do the
14th is
14th.
fine with me.
How about anybody the 13th? I can't do the 14th. I'm sorry, but I can't do. I'm already Right. double booked
You
the
don't have a
14th.
meeting on the 13th, do we?
No.
I just moved,
Yeah, 13th will work.
Tuesday, the
even ask.
13th would be
I moved
good.
the 14th to the 13th, now I'll move the 13th
So-
to some other day.
We will have, might have a slightly more superficial analysis of the cost comparison for that for the interviews, but we will crunch to get that done. That was the only reason I had left a little more space there was we'll need to turn that around quickly. But if we have the interviews all organized and ready to go, then that piece of it's done. So
it's
you
the
want to try for
13th?
the 13th?
What time?
Well,
You figure,
I'm assuming evening meeting, so if you look on this, I sort of laid this three-hour interviews out. So if we started at 6, and we had 1-hour interviews with 15-minute breaks, that would get us done at 9:30. So we could start
do we need
earlier.
an hour for an interview? you
I
think?
would say you need an hour.
I think
Yeah.
so.
And I think the way to think about
Yes.
it is you're
We have
making
an
a
hour.
decision about someone you're going to have a contractual relationship with for 3 years. so.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got most of it done here in writing, you basically want to see the people, hear what who they're gonna present, and, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Just, you know.
And if you
Does
guys want to go earlier, right, you could always go earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you could start at 5 and be done at 8:30 in this scenario.
Or they'll
Work
even
better
go
for
during,
me.
they'll go during the day, right? I don't know what
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys-
no,
you-
it's completely
it's up
about
to you
whether
guys.
folks are,
If you want to go during the day, I'm sure they'd be happy to go during the day.
it doesn't have to be in the evening.
That's better for me, because I technically am supposed to be at a PTA meeting on the 13th, and they don't like when I don't show up.
All right, so
But-
if we did afternoons, right? You could start at 1 and be done by about 4.
Yeah,
That works for
Is
me.
that better?
Is that okay with you?
yeah,
Yeah,
All right, so we'll do those, we'll set up some time starting at 1.
It ends at 4:30.
Look at that, it worked out.
I really like that one.
I like that.
Okay,
and where
So
do we
So
want,
starting at 1.
do we want to conduct them in here or in,
Well, we could do them in here.
They got enough space, or they gonna do like
The other
posters?
Well, those
conference
are
you only
there,
got one
a little
little bit
bit
of time
bigger.
anyway, yeah.
Either
think
that
this is a
room,
good
that
spot.
conference room we had the technology meeting in?
Because the town hall
Yeah,
might be a
that
little
room's a little
small for
bigger.
everybody.
No, we have an upstairs that's huge, it's an auditorium,
Oh,
but the acoustics is not good, but
I would do it in a room like this.
Yeah.
they can have them sit around the table and.
Yeah, that's what they'll do. They'll make a, I mean, I'm assuming, I wasn't here for our interview, but I'm assuming it was here?
it was in the other conference room down the hall.
Was it down there?
No, where
It
was
was here.
it?
It wasn't in
I think-
here,
Was it?
no, because I was walking people down the hall.
There you were. Yeah. That's, I
Oh,
know.
yeah,
I
it
know
was-
It
it
was
was.
right up at the conference room, the special ed conference room. It's bigger than this.
It's, yeah, it's a little bigger.
Okay,
little-
well,
I think we
we
should
can
do
figure
that.
that out, but let's assume it's the 13th, that it's in the afternoon, we'll get this meeting, the interviews.
And we're still meeting on the 20th?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a full
Okay,
committee.
and I
right?
did reply, I couldn't, but I can.
Oh, you can now. Oh,
Good.
really? Did you send that today?
We have
Did you
time
email-
like 1 to 4.
Did you send that email today?
I thought I sent it last night.
Okay. Didn't pop up. Maybe you went to my spam.
Okay, so let's talk about, I'm very interested to hear what everybody saw when they looked at these. And when we did the designer applications, we kind of went around the room and just
Yeah.
listened to people's comments. You want to start?
I'll start if you want.
Okay.
Just be patient because I took a
You
lot of
have
notes.
pages of notes.
Well,
see.
what I did was I pulled up your RFQ and had that on a screen and kind of, because that was a little bit more detail what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And tried to go through each one of these and see, how close they were to what we were asked. So I can start with like Bond Brothers,
Okay,
the qualifications. The only note I had here was they were 2 years under the current business name, but they've been around since 1907, so, I mean, they're a well-established company. They changed their name for whatever reason, I don't know,
Ownership,
but
yeah.
the ownership. In the executive summary, you were requiring, because it was an addendum, I think it was just 2 pages back to back, is that what it was? Because it was, I saw 6 and 3, and then the addendum basically
We
said.
clarified the
Yeah.
dentist.
Yeah, so they conform to that. But I noticed in their proposal or their request for qualifications that they did not address many of the requested items A through F, in that they kind of left that blank. So that was one of my concerns. Under management, personnel, and project organizational chart, it looks like they have 15 people on the team, so they have a lot of people that they're proposing to put on the project. The project executive, Mike Lambert, only has 2 years with Bond. Went to North Shore Essex Community College. No certificate and or licenses other than OSHA 30. Not sure, and my note was, not sure what part Mike would play on the 5 schools listed with his, he had 5 schools listed on his resume, and I'm not sure, not sure what part Mike would play.
what
on-
his role was on those schools.
Huh?
You weren't sure what his role was.
What his
on
role
those
was, yeah, on the
schools,
schools.
That is unclear in the.
Project engineer, Nick Tuttle, and assistant project manager, Austin Carr. A week with title experience. A lot of Wentworth graduates. The org chart, one note was the picture of Mike Demar, I don't know what his last name is, Dumaresq. The senior project manager is not the same as on the resume. It's a different person, so. The resume.
He changed.
Well, it might be an older picture, but the pictures
Yeah.
were small and black and white, so, but it
Now you
didn't look
got me
like the same
curious,
person.
okay.
I don't know.
The resume of the assistant superintendent was missing. They had 15 people, but there was only 14 resumes, so I didn't know where that was. Or if, similar project experience, Bond has done a lot of school facilities with MSBA. What I wanted to ask was, they did some work in the town of Linfield, and they paid an additional $3.3 million, or 5.5% in addition to what the project costs were, and I guess I had a concern on that. Termination, Schedule E, they didn't have any terminations. Their legal proceedings, under Schedule E, there was no legal proceedings with completed school projects, and it wasn't I wrote down not a concern. Their safety record under Schedule F, I didn't understand those numbers that they have to report with the state. It's .72, .69, .84. Is higher the number, the better their safety record?
The lower the
Lower.
number.
The lower the
better.
number is the better safety record. Okay, so
Yeah.
then they had the best safety record of the three. Their financial statement, I didn't have it, so I didn't review that. Letter of surety in their bonding under schedule.
Bond's record on the safety factors was
What's that?
higher.
Do what?
Bond was higher.
No, they're .72,
Right.
.69, .84.
There are three.
But the
their-
other-
Their
the-
numbers were generally lower, which is
Lower,
better.
which means they have a better record. That's what I was wondering. The higher the number is it, the better record, but they had the lower numbers, which according to Margaret is a better safety record. Under the letter of security and
It's-
bonding,
It's summarized, if you guys want to look, it's summarized on the last page of the big handout, the safety numbers.
letter of surety, bonding, Liberty Mutual letter attached, they can bond, I mean, to $500 million to $1 billion, so there was no question there. Examples of project management reports, they are not from any Schedule G project reports presented are from, example reports are not from any Schedule D projects, which was required or requested. Reports presented are from 2011. Examples of prior experience under lead. I had no staff and roles played as required by Part B. A lot of good projects. Certificate of eligibility under DCAM. Their limit ratings are 144 million in the aggregate, 570 million plus. So there was no concerns there. I did have one question on the check boxes there. They checked general building construction, which they needed to do, and they also had historical building restoration. But they didn't have any other boxes checked, and I don't know whether the committee should be looking for a contractor who has more boxes checked, you know, like under windows and doors, under DCAM.
Yeah, they're
So,
general
I
contract.
mean, the only requirement was for the general building construction, but I didn't, some of the other ones had more boxes checked.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys self-perform
Yeah.
different trades,
Yep,
but it doesn't really matter here because all of those trades are gonna end up being competitively bid out as
Yeah,
part of the
sub-bids.
GMP.
yep.
So it's, so long as they've got the general contracting box checked, we're good.
The list of projects in progress under Schedule L, I see they've completed 24, of which none of them were schools, they were just colleges only. Page 11, the bond has 347 million and change of uncompleted contract work for 21 projects listed, and out of those, there were only 2 that were schools. And then I had a question, why on page 28/29 that the Diamond Middle School in Lexington and the Clark School in Lexington valued at 40 million does not agree with the currently held contracts listed on page 10, Schedule L, which lists them as 51 million.
Yeah,
Am I correct on that?
yeah.
Okay.
They don't have the numbers lined up. But the
Yeah.
projects also aren't built yet, so
Yeah.
that's part of the reason.
But I picked that up. Things like that, you start to say, it's probably not a concern, but if you see a lot of that mixing in there, then you
Yeah.
start to question that. And then I rated them, but that was kind of premature. W.T. Rich, they've had 48 years on the current business, founded in 1968. Executive summary submitted, they submitted the 2 double-side pages I requested. They stated that they never missed a school opening deadline, which caught my eye. They also stated deep experience in completing phased occupied school renovation projects, pages 1 through 4. Occupied construction projects on sites have accounted for 50% of the total project dollar volume over the 10 years. They did not give any examples of similar size scope projects or whatever else that was listed there. They did not describe the CMR, maximum price delivery method, although they propose employing a quality control officer. The approach to estimating was not discussed or covered, which was kind of concerning. Concerned that a mid-sized construction management firm, that's quote unquote that they put in there, will be able to get adequate and timely cost and schedule information to the committee on our aggressive schedule. They are proposing to provide a dedicated safety director to protect students and staff from construction hazards, which was good, but later on, I think in here they don't have a safety officer, so I'll pick that up later. The last 7 projects completed that they achieved under the LEED certification, they had 1 platinum, 3 gold, and 3 silver, so that was, they're pretty good in as far as LEED projects. Management personnel and professional organization, they're proposing to give us 15 people, which was similar to Bond. The project superintendent only has 1 year with the company, very little schoolwork or education. Assistant superintendent only has 2 years with the firm, with limited relevant project experience. The assistant project manager, which are the key people that they're going to put on a project, who I would guess would be doing much of the legwork, is a new employee. And he was limited to school-related project experience. The assistant project manager is a new employee of Rich, limited school-related projects. And then I had a question here, I guess it was, are the electrical and mechanical estimators who worked for Logan Company on board to our aggressive time schedule? Because I guess they're going to sub it out to Logan Company, and I don't know whether they're aware of the aggressive schedule that we have. Similar project experience, they had many CM school projects. Of the 10 Chapter 149A MSBA projects, average overage in budget is 3.39%. I noticed that, and I kind of did a little adding and subtracting and multiplying here to look at the CM projects, how even though we're going to hire a CM, that the project was still over by 3%, and some were even more than that. So I think, to Joe's point, we need to, I guess plan on that, because it looks like that's consistent with all the 3 contractors.
Just to kind of clarify that a little bit, it's hard to say what's driving that, right? Because a lot of times that could be driven because it's an unforeseen condition.
Yep, they said that in there, or they said it was the owner wanted
Owner
something
added
different.
type
Yeah.
things.
But every one of them had something like that, so that, not that it's a fault of the CM, but, it just seems to be something that we should be aware of as we plan forward.
Oh, absolutely, that's the
if our budget
contingency part.
is tight, so
Yeah.
Right.
it's gonna be tough. There was one project that was 25% over, which, I don't know why that was, but it was, that was kind of eye-striking. There were no termination or incomplete projects. The legal proceedings, there were none in the last 3 years. The safety record, they had 1 minor citation in February 16 with a reduced fine, and then they had a serious citation on June of this year, and they were fined. It didn't say how much. And their ratings were 85, 86, 89, 89, 86. So again, that was higher or lower than Bond.
Yeah.
Didn't have the financial statement, so I couldn't do that. Letter of security, they're going through, I guess, Arch Insurance Company, attached their 125% of estimate contract, which is what we were requiring. The letter did not give bonding capacity of Rich. Note if it did, let's see, if did not.
It's
have
in
to
their
be provided.
it's in their DCAM statements, their aggregate limit,
Yeah.
right, and then their single project limit.
Okay, which I should have here, so. Sample of project reports. They had 5, and they were only supposed to have 3. They had Worcester Site University, had a cash flow project, detail schedule, Boston Prep, they had a buyout log in Clark, they had a milestone activity description, Jefferson, so they had a lot more information there than we actually requested. But I wasn't sure, looking at all those, what they were really proposing for this project. You know, it was just examples of what they had done elsewhere. Example of prior experience in lead. If you go to page 1, 2, and 3 of Schedule J, explain concern and percentage above contract. Oh, that's what we talked about. CM is supposed to control some of this, I guess. That's what my question mark was. The average for WT Rich was 7.65 above contract amount taken out of 25.1, which, or if you take out the 25.1, which is that high one,
The high one.
it's average above 5.16% over cost estimates. All schools got LEED certification, but at what price, I guess, is my comment. I don't know what that means. Certificate of eligibility, DCAM, on these projects here, they have 103.8 million single aggregate, single project aggregate 250 million, and the general liability 103. Their overall rating was 97, and I guess that's a rate, because I've done a couple of those in the past where past projects they give the project manager or the town, we have to do a report and you have to rate the contractor, and it comes up with an average. And so this is an average of 97 with all the projects that they've done. So that's a good sign. List of projects in progress under Schedule E. They've completed only 2, of which one is a charter high school. Note page 6 of 13, part 2. Rich has
Back up, say that one more time. Tell us about.
completed only 2, of which one is a charter
To,
high school under projects in progress. Did I get that right? And on page, Rich has $98.6 million of incomplete work. One project is a joint venture too, which I thought, I noted. As opposed, it wasn't his project, it was
Right.
we joined with somebody else. 7 projects of the 13 listed are schools. Okay. In the last, column, Tonio, they have 32 years in business. They started in '84. Executive summary, they submitted the 2 pages. They did not talk about any accelerated school projects. They covered phase construction with FA Day School and Newton, did not go into detail in report. Stated on page 1 they would quote-unquote smart collaborative planning, etc. They would meet or exceed project goals, no examples of past history. Their approach to estimating was too general. It appears firm will do its own carpentry and site work estimating, and probably not much of this is proposed for this project. It appears that they will sub out the work and ask for a 5-day window response. So I don't, just want to note that, because I don't know if 5 days is a good enough window to get responses back so that we could move the project ahead. The construction mitigation plan was general in nature, but included in the report. The worksite safety plan was a big part of the report in the beginning under the executive secretary, but well thought out, maybe too much info given to this sub-object of the report. I mean, when you read the report, it was all about safety, but then there was no safety officer assigned to it. They were very limited in lead projects. Just began construction on Hopkinton Elementary School, and that was the only school noted in the report. The management personnel in the org chart, they were only having 8 people on a management team. And then again, a lot of talk about safety, but there was no designated employee. I didn't get into too much of the individuals on this report, but similar project experience. Of the 6 projects listed, there were no similar CM projects of similar value. Only one project was a phase occupied renovation of only 6 classrooms, and the project cost was only 6.1, so it was a very small project. The other schools listed was new construction, which had 65,000 square feet, for 24.2 million. So that was the only thing that was fairly close, but it was new construction versus limited renovation. An additional 3 double-sided, in this report here, they added more stuff than we really wanted to see in there. They had an additional 3 double-sided pages with added showing work sample pictures of projects, which gave them, I thought, an unfair advantage of the other proposals. They really just stuffed it with a lot of stuff that they really shouldn't have probably put in there. Termination in legal proceedings, they have none listed in Part A. In Part B, they had 7 listed, and 1 is still pending. So I thought that might have been a little bit much for the limited amount of projects that they had. The safety record was .90, .93, .91, similar to W.T. Rich, but I guess higher or lower than Bond. No other information regarding safety issues was provided. Arch Insurance gave them a bond rating, or willing to bond 50 million to backlog approaching 100 million. So that was sort of the lower of the 3. They have some outstanding projects that, I don't know what, I didn't write that down. Oh, maybe I did. Yeah, their outstanding projects, what was that? Is 20, all small projects except for school. There are 8 projects listed, only 1 was a school MA CHIPS design, all small projects except for the school, which was the 25.1 million. Most of them were between 3.7 mil and 14.9 mil. Again, 4 additional double-sided sheets were added describing details of projects with pictures, and no other respondents included this information. And under the DCAM update statement, their general building construction limit was 41.8 million. Now, that was kind of low, I thought, and I don't know, if this project here, where the number is, if that is something we should take a look at. And then their incompleted value of project was $22 million, roughly. So they're still got a lot of outstanding work. That's my quick notes for the projects.
Very thorough, quick notes.
Wow.
I mean, I hope that was helpful to you people. I mean,
It's very helpful, so
Yep.
I'm going to make a couple of comments about some of the things that you said for context. So, I think this set of contractors is an interesting set of contractors, and if I were to kind of characterize them a little bit, I would say W.T. Rich, and I think you saw this, your comments reflected this, is a company that's been doing public construction for a long time. They've never really done private construction, and they've always done a lot of schools, and increasingly over the past few years, and they're growing. So as the school market has grown recently, they've grown with it. The Bond Brothers is a company that has really been focused more on the private construction market until, I would say the last decade. And actually Mike Lambert, who you commented on, Mike Lambert actually used to run DCAM, so he used to be the
Yep, I
person
saw
who
that.
was in charge of public construction for DCAM. So their decision to bring Mike Lambert into their office reflects that they are kind of pivoting towards sort of doing a mix. But when you look at their numbers, you see this firm that's been around for a long time, that's done a lot of big work, but is sort of newer to the public construction market. And then Colantonio is a firm that is smaller than the other 2, but is very committed to doing, and I will also say very good at, because we're working with them, committed to doing, they're very interested in construction management at risk projects. So although the data doesn't reflect that, for instance, we're actually working on several with them. So
I saw that in there, and you work with Rich as well.
which is always sort of weird when, I tend to ask CMs not to use us as references, but obviously, You know, when you look at the
That was
projects,
all
you
through
see,
there, yeah.
see that we're working with them. So they are actually three very different firms, and I think your comments reflect those differences. But I think, does that sort of help give some context to what you're seeing in that information?
Oh, yeah, I think, you know, as I went through there, you could kind of read a lot of that in between. And I mean, I know I've dealt with Bond Brothers many, many years ago, you know, when they were doing sewer work and things of that nature. And so it was kind of interesting to see that they're now moving over into this industry here.
Definitely.
So-
And I think the fact that Mike Lambert's role, at least as it's conveyed in here, is still a little murky, sort of reflects that they're trying to sort of find the right place for him as they do more and more public work.
I mean, my personal opinion is as we go through this process here, is that it's not necessarily the biggest and best firm that I would want to look at. I mean, I looked at
Yeah.
W.T. Rich is sort of in between the two.
Mhm.
You know, maybe that might be a good firm for us, I'm not sure, but, you know, I would leave that open to see how they make their presentation to the
Definitely.
committee, because, I mean, that's how we've changed some opinions. Even, I think, when we hired you people, we had some bigger firms, but we felt comfortable and we felt you were the right fit for
Right.
us. And, you know, who's gonna spend the time that is needed for us, you know,
Correct.
so.
So Larry, do you want to chime in at all on that?
Yes. I'm gonna skip around some. Like on Rich, on B, they had a lot of similar projects as opposed to the others. In D, the renovations and the costs were similar to what we're having over here. So they seem to be more in line in that respect. Under J, Bond had poor project descriptions. They would have the same descriptions under various people, okay? So
Yeah.
Colantonio, they had less than 50% renovations, and I think they were the ones that, you know, were basically doing doors and windows and stuff like that. And while Rich had greater than 50% of their projects were renovations. So I rated all of them and then looked at an overall rating of their proposal, and Bonds was just very confusing. I mean, I had to tab the whole thing and go back and forth on the thing, and if their proposal is very confusing, unless there's something different, I didn't have much hope for them. And also the renovation work, although Bond had a lot of renovation work, to me, Bond was way too big for our needs. Rich, I gave an overall score of 127.5, Bond 111.5, and Colantonio 109.5. So to me, there was at least a clear person or firm that was more in line with what we wanted.
And actually, when we look at my numerical rating, which I came at it from a totally different perspective, just from a point system that
Right.
we use, I ended up with the same. And for the way we do it, it's completely tied to a set of criteria for experiences directly related to your project. So it's good to know that that sort of lines up.
Right.
Joe, do you want to add anything?
I don't have the background that Dennis had, and that's one of the reasons why I was very happy when he accepted the appointment to the committee, that I thought he brought a lot of experience and knowledge with him. I would like to make a few comments. You asked what struck you about the responses individually or as a group. I was impressed with Rich's response that they specialize in schools. I like that idea. I did notice that throughout most of all three of the reports, that the dollar figure seems to be kind of low. They were about $20 million or even lower in a lot of the projects, and I was a little bit concerned about that. But did like the idea of, I was less impressed with Colantonio with their litigation problems. That bothered me a lot. But I, again, did like the idea that Rich specialized in the schools.
That's very important to me as well. I mean, it sounds like they know the innuendos of dealing with a school in session.
Right.
Through the renovations, and that's really important to me.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, an occupied building,
Correct.
they did specify, yes.
Michelle?
I completely agree with most of the comments that have been made. One question I had was where Bond claims that they've, the current status of the company is only 2 years old. I'm just wondering if some of the history in their report, they're only going back 2 years. I mean, I think that their workers' comp rating is probably so low because they're only 2 years old, so they don't have a lot of experience. So I think that's skewing the numbers a little bit.
I think they showed beyond the 2 years under their name. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
They did.
Even though
Okay.
it might have been a different name, but I think they
Yeah,
showed
well, that's what I was
progress.
wondering. I mean,
Yeah.
They're extrapolating over the change
Are they?
of the
Okay.
company name.
that was my only real
Yeah.
concern with them. I know that Wakefield with the middle school project was pretty happy with them. So that was just some of my concern that maybe they were only reporting on the past 2 years. But I did see some of the projects going back.
No, they've definitely got
few
stuff in here
years,
going
yeah.
back, so.
But I didn't know if they were answering some of those questions only based on the 2 year.
I didn't
Where they
notice that
said they-
specifically.
okay.
And not in a way that I think would affect this discussion. I mean, I
Okay.
don't think they're representing themselves as being a different company than the company that had the different name. I'm sure.
I just didn't want them picking and choosing when it would benefit them to,
Yeah.
in terms of litigation. Yeah, there's no litigation. Well, is that only 2 years or
Yeah.
is that a longer period of time?
It's a great question.
Me.
Mr. Dorr?
So, at this stage, right, the purpose of getting these proposals is to determine who's qualified and who's not. And, I know all these folks, and they're all qualified. So if we were in a situation where we had 15 applicants, and we were trying to go and whittle, because, nobody has the appetite for doing 15 interviews, and usually doesn't make sense, then, we would be looking to, I think, really trying to hone that in more and get this ranking. But, what you've said, for different reasons, I think there's a lot of good points that were made. But everybody here, in my mind, is qualified at this point. And I don't see any, and we can go through the score sheet and develop the score sheet, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to go and interview all three. I think
I agree.
there's kind of, everybody has their own sense of, who they might think is number one, number two, and number three right now. But, going through the interview process, and I think, kind of touching and feeling who you're going to be, let's rephrase, to go and who you're going to be working with for the next 3 years. I think that that's important. I can say, that we're just coming off of a job with Rich, and, I think for various reasons, people started to, kind of be inclined towards looking at their proposal or qualifications package a little bit more favorably. We had an absolutely fantastic experience right up the road over in Gloucester with an elementary school. It's not too far off of it. It's a new school, but, we also had to do some renovation on a building to, which was the St. Anne's School, to, make that building work so we could use that as swing space. I thought they were very accommodating. The project was right on the money, budget, schedule, and it was a great experience. But, I think, Bond Brothers and Colantonio also are good firms. And I also think, they're probably right-sized firms. Bond's, got a lot of work out there. But, for this project, and I think this project, given where the market is and the size of this project and Reno, I'm actually very pleased with the fact that we have, these three firms here.
I am too. I totally agree. And what I think is interesting is I think that they each have I would argue, very different motivations for wanting to do this job. all of which are good motivations for you. So, arguably, W.T. Rich, I think, they have told me they had a great experience working with Doran Whittier, so they think, and they worked with us, so to them, it's like, we know these people, we haven't met the town, but we know these people, we know this would be a good working relationship. I think Colantonio has worked with us and is very interested in doing schools, and so is reaching here for a project that is a good fit for them, that they have appropriate staff for, and would be, for them it is building their work portfolio in public schools. And I think Bond is doing this kind of pivot towards doing more public work, and for them it would be a great opportunity because they also, I think, respect your work and ours. And think that the experience. So they've all got good reasons. I mean, it isn't accidental that they went through the trouble of applying. So
We have one more member of the committee
Pardon me?
to report.
Christine, do you want to comment?
Just
He's
that,
inviting you to comment.
oh, okay. Well, I know a subcontractor who had a wonderful experience with Rich and company.
Yeah.
Very positive, and it was a school, so. It was my husband. He's very
It
fond
counts.
of, yeah. And he's done plenty of schools across the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Just to
You want-
comment on what Brad said, in that seemed to hear some of the comments down here that I think that where, we had 8 companies come in on the police and fire station, that we had whittle it down to 3. And where we only have 3, and we seem to have 3 very qualified, even, going by your top part of the form here, that they're qualified. And I would agree, going through the proposals, that they are qualified. I can't see, any reason why we wouldn't interview all 3. I do remember a meeting where we suggested that we would not interview a second applicant for an architectural firm, but we chose the one that we were very pleased with. And so, but we will, I think we should go with all 3.
Okay, so we'll go
Okay.
ahead and
Yep.
interview all 3. We'll provide the RFP to all of them within the next day or 2. I'm actually going to have to run away at this point, but if you all have some time, you should stop and have pizza before it's stone cold, right? And you could discuss the interview questions, or people could kind of cogitate on them and sort of come back to us with comments on them. These were just kind of ideas to put out there for people to think about what might be appropriate questions. And we can tinker with them, right up until the time of the interview, but it's kind of the next thinking step, is figuring out what you want to get out of the interview. So
I'm glad you had far fewer than our 18 that we had.
yes, I am too. I am totally on board with that.
Oh
So-
my God.
So, with your permission, Mr. Chair, since I don't get to be, right, a committee member very often, since we're usually a consultant, but on this one I actually am, just from a housekeeping perspective, I would like to make a motion. See, I never get to do that. That we take the scorecard that Pink has developed, because at least in my opinion, I think everybody had a very kind of common, experience relative to the scoring that's been put forward, because I believe that we do need to have ultimately something, for record, to accept that as the committee's recommendations, ranking and scoring for this, and that, to have all 3 of the applicants move forward to the interview phase. How's that?
I'll second
very
it.
I don't get to do that very often.
Very
We have a
Alright.
chair.
No, we did make a chair of the subcommittee, but.
Right, okay.
You're
You can be the chair.
You're the chair.
Make a motion to appoint Joe as the chair.
I'm taking baby steps here. I'm only going to do one.
We need to organize it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Brad's motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I think that, just to comment on the scoring, I read through your points and compared them to, I made up my own three-column chart. And I was not as generous in scoring as you were, but I did agree with your valuations of the three companies. I was very pleased with, I like when that works out.
Well, essentially, the second page here is scoring the company and their experience, and the third page is scoring the individuals, and looking at the same categories of experience, but recognizing that sometimes individuals are bringing experience the company doesn't have, and sometimes company has experience that the individuals don't have. So that is the nut of it.
So now, the interviews that we were talking about, that we were scheduling for the 15th, but we're going on the
13th.
13th.
13.
Correct.
And we're going to have 1 hour time slots for the three companies,
Correct.
Starting at 1
Any
o'clock.
particular order?
Starting at 1 o'clock.
starting at 1 o'clock.
Any particular order you want to do it? Do we want to go?
Don't you do reverse order of rankings?
Yeah, say the best for last or the best for
We don't know
first,
until
or-
we get there, but.
I mean, sometimes I just do it alphabetically, sometimes I do it reverse
I don't know.
alphabetically.
Do it haphazard, because it could be that one group may not be able to make the
Yeah.
1 o'clock time frame, but the 2:15 they can.
So.
Yeah, we want to be flexible on that point, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see, well, whether we should go alphabetically or by ranking. I think we, put the three names in a hat and draw them out.
Okay, fair enough, we'll do
It
that.
doesn't,
We'll let you know how that falls out. So I'm gonna go.
I think that's for the meeting. I think technically that's all we really needed to accomplish. I mean,
Right.
we could have pizza and talk about
We
interview
can-
questions.
We can,
Exactly.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
We have a couple of,
Do
Exactly.
we want to be on camera?
No, that's
No,
what I'm
'cause
saying.
we don't
could
wanna
flip
give the
the
questions
switch.
We don't
back.
wanna give it
We
away.
can't discuss the questions because we're still at a meeting. So we're
Make a
going to
motion
discuss
to
questions.
temporarily adjourn.
Yeah, and then reconvene to talk about the questions, I guess. We should
Right.
do it in open session,
Right.
the questions. So,
Yeah, because the questions are gonna, what is your plan for that? Is your plan to, have those informal or at the, what's the approach?
We've done it both ways.
Yeah.
I think that there's some value in you having them as questions. I think some communities we've worked with have been very structured at it and have asked everybody the same question in the same order. It's really about how you all want to approach it and how you've handled that in the past. So we'd be guided by your preference, and if you have a preference.
The only thing, and I shot this to you guys in an email, that I would say is maybe there's a couple of things that you feel are important that you'd like them to cover in their proposal. And I would let them know, what those things are so that they can focus and you can hear, a response to what you believe is important. And I've seen, you're right, I've seen, kind of the structured questions, but, again, my take coming out of an interview is you want to have that certain level of comfort, and, that may not necessarily, based on how the interview goes, it may not necessarily be tied to those questions that you're trying to go and get everybody to do. And because this isn't it is a competitive thing, but it's not something where it's a low price type situation, I don't think it necessarily has to be the same questions for every person. So I think, what you hear, and you have a question about it, you should feel free to ask that question. So just my sense is if what's important that you want them to hit in the interview process, and for me, I'd like to have something that goes and says, when you're looking at this job and, what you know about it, how would you envision phasing it, and what does that mean to you? Because I think that really is a critical part here, because, Christine's going to be living it. It also gives us some insight from my perspective and how they're going to approach the job, and that gives me insight in terms of construction knowledge based on how they're going to look at things and logistics. So that's an important one to me. But, if we had that and, give them a little bit of an idea, say, hey, you've got an hour here. This is the stuff we want you to cover. Let them cover it, and then if we have questions, whatever those may be, we should. I think we should have the freedom to go and ask them, because it's going to come out of that interview, and we're not going to be able to guess that tonight.
I agree with that. So long, farewell.
okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
All right,
Margaret.
thank you, Margaret.
Although during the design review, didn't we have structured questions, like 10 questions, that we
Right.
asked every
Yeah,
respondent. Only
I
because we
wonder-
wanted to be, consistent with all of them so that they all had that same question. And we based our decision on the response to those questions. I think we diverse, from that. I mean, other stuff gets added in there in conversation, but I think we need to structure a certain number of questions that we ask each of the three.
Gives everyone a level playing
Yeah.
field, sort of.
yes.
And how we did it, I think, is we all, you might be concerned with safety in the school or something like that. So, that might be a question that we ask all of them. Something financial on our end, Joe might have something on that. But get the important points that we want to get out of all three, and maybe some of the questions that we found or haven't answered here.
Yeah, sure,
Have it
and I'm suggesting, whatever those are, we figure those out, but tell
Yeah.
them so that they can respond to that as part of their interview. So you've
Yeah.
told them, X, we want to hear X, Y, and Z. And it's up to them to go and be able to respond to that. So they all have those same things that they're responding to. And then if you have other things that you want to ask,
I don't think we sent the questions out to them ahead of time. We
No.
asked them when they came in.
Right.
Because we don't want to have slide presentations and everything else, to answer the questions. I think they know they're simple questions that they should be able to answer. I don't think we should give them questions ahead of time.
okay.
I do a lot of interviewing in my position because I hire personnel constantly. And we have a committee, we have 10 questions that we ask.
Yeah.
We all ask the same candidate, the same question, but people can elaborate with a follow-up. Can I ask a follow-up? I'd like to ask a
Yeah.
follow-up question to that if we want more information.
Yeah. Right.
That seems to have worked.
I think that would work, but Ian, my constraint would be that we do have our restrictions, that we do have to follow the open meeting law in any restrictions that places on the committee. We are a town committee.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that.
Okay. Do you want to come up with the questions tonight?
I don't know if I don't know if we have enough time or had
I
enough
know.
thought to
I'm thinking
figure,
it's
because I know you need those as soon as possible. I don't know, maybe we could come up with a couple general subjects that we want to get questions to. Then maybe we can email them out by Monday or something like that, all the questions that we might want to include, and then somehow pick out the 10 best questions, because a lot of them will probably be similar in nature, I'm not sure.
I think yours, that if you put that in writing or have some.
Yeah, I just want them,
That's a very
when they come
important
in,
one.
I guess what I'm saying is when they're doing their interview, I just don't want them to come in and say, hi, I'm John Rich from WT Rich. We've been in business for 24 years and all that, because we're going to get that kind of motherhood and apple pie stuff. I think we should give them the opportunity for whatever some of the specific questions that we want answers
I
to,
agree.
to prep and do it, because, there's always it's good to be able to dance on your feet and give us an answer. But, I want to hear and I want to see and I want slides to go and see how they're going to approach something like phasing. So, I would be advocating to go and say, give them, 2 or 3 or whatever those things are, and say, when you come to your interview, right, as part of
You
your
should
interview,
address.
tell us this stuff.
The following 3 or 4, yeah.
Whatever those are, because
Right.
that's important, and it's okay
Yes.
that they think about it in
Right.
advance, right? I mean,
And then we could have follow-up questions.
Yeah, as long as we comply with the open meeting law and all that stuff, we're not giving them advanced questions that we don't
No.
ask later, or,
Right.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's fine. It's just like what you've done in your RFP, right? I mean, you're going and saying, we want you here's the stuff we want you to talk about,
Yeah.
Right. This is what we want you to focus on during.
right?
the-
And that's what we want to
We can do that.
to hear from them.
Right.
Isn't
That's
it?
fine.
I'll send that.
I disagree. I think that the interviewees should be smart enough to say, okay, this is a building renovation, so we don't do a song and dance type of a thing about all of the new constructions that we've done, $100 million project and this, that, and the other thing. They should be smart enough to be able to concentrate on what they have seen and say, hey, okay, we see these areas of concern rather than us point it out. That's one of the things is that if we give them the question beforehand, and they can, you know, tailor the whole thing. I'm not going to say not telling the truth, okay, but sugarcoat the answer so that it doesn't come across as a person that has to think on his feet, which is what he's going to have to do on the project.
But we're
I
not,
just-
we're not proposing giving them all, you know, we want them to focus on certain areas, and then
But
we're going to
wouldn't
have.
that, wouldn't
we're
that be
going
kind
to
of
have
obvious? We want them to focus on, you know, what have you done for, you know, reconstructions? What are your concerns? What are you going to do about the school going on in the meantime and safety? You know, it should be,
But we have our own follow-up questions.
okay, so it's 4-1.
No,
I respect what you're saying, but the only reason I say this, Larry, is because you know it's hard outside looking in, trying to figure out necessarily what's important to people,
To be to the committee.
right? And you know, some people, you know, when you look at the RFQ, you know, safety is always important, right? But these guys all have safety officers, right? They all have to pay attention to that. And, you know, they all run pretty safe operations. And so, you know, to me, you know, they could come through and look at that RFQ and focus a whole lot of attention on that. But that's not really, from my perspective, what's really important here. You know, I think there are other things that would be more important to really try and understand, you know, how are they going to approach work, you know, not just on the job site, but how do they approach work philosophically, working with the design team and working with the project manager?
Yeah, that's important. That would be one of my questions.
Right? And so I would like to hear, you know, the detail, you know, in their as part of their presentation, and get them to focus on that, rather than, you know, the 15 minutes or whatever we get that they're going to get peppered with 10 questions to have to give us, you know, a 1-minute abbreviated answer to something like that.
But I want to see their reaction to the questions too. I don't want them, you know, be, like Larry said, prepared to just give you what we want to hear. You know, they know what they're getting into. They know, they've already looked at the school. They know what the questions that are going to come up, that we're not going to be asking them strange questions that they wouldn't normally get on a project like this. I just think that giving them the 10 questions and let them see how they react to it. I mean, we did that before and it worked. I mean, we changed our mind on who we hired for, I think, the OPM, based on that.
Right.
They're not going to be questions that they wouldn't be prepared to answer anyway.
No, I think they will, but I just think, you know, at least that way we get a more tapered type of presentation to what we want, rather than just, you know, a bunch of, you know, look at all the jobs,
Well,
look
then
at all
maybe
the
we
work I've done.
Well, maybe we reduce the 20 minutes of their team down to less than 20 minutes or something like that, and we had more of an open question back and forth. Yeah, I mean, I love those when I go on an interview, is to be able to talk back and forth and
Yeah.
complete a presentation. Because you already know who we are.
Yeah, I just
You
get
already know
nervous
who they
that
are.
we hear something from
Technically.
your presentation that we should have asked the person before. That's why when you have the 10 structured questions, basically take them out, there's your questions, and we're going to rate you based on those questions. And they're going to be all important questions that we want,
Okay.
you know, as opposed to, maybe somebody will say something in there that we
Well,
should have asked
yeah.
before.
I think that will allow for a dialogue to take place, because
Yeah.
some of us around the table may have a follow-up question to how they
Yeah.
responded the first time, to get them to elaborate a little bit more. That's just my thought.
I think it'll be fine.
How do you feel, Joe, on that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
With 10, like, structured questions?
Well, like, limit the presentation and then do the structure.
Right now, she's got 20 minutes for the presentation and 40 minutes
Yeah,
remaining
but-
for questions, but we can
But
reduce.
giving the interviewees the structured questions.
No,
No, is what you just said, you didn't want to give them.
No.
the questions.
Right.
no, I agree that we don't want to give them the questions.
Okay.
But you know, I was leaning towards Brad's saying that, okay, you're gonna do 20 minutes. I'd like you to focus on,
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
rather than,
Right.
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
want to
but
hear,
limit-
I don't want to hear
Right.
this.
So-
I don't wanna
Limited,
hear
yeah,
that.
but limited to 15 minutes or whatever, and then we go into our structured
Right.
questions and go from there.
We have
Right.
structured
So for the
questions.
presentation, please be prepared to focus on the following things.
Right.
We
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So it's phasing, safety,
See, yep, safety's my thing.
And
Budget?
Phasing too.
how do we,
Well, one of the questions I always is how do you work with, OPMs and designers?
yeah, I think
You know,
that's
So those are the four
important
big
from my
things.
perspective.
Because you
That's a
guys
pretty
work with
important
some,
thing.
because you
Safety
guys have to
phasing.
work with them, and
Collaboration between
we don't
the-
want to, I mean, we want to be a team here, but it doesn't always work that way, as you know, too. So we want to get the best guy there that will work with you guys, but also we're paying for the bills, so we want to make sure that he's doing his job,
No, it's
due
the
diligence
phasing.
too.
Yeah.
so
Yep.
I just said safety, phasing, OPM, AE, collaboration.
And there was somebody.
And that's
mentioned-
it.
That's it? Oh.
Don't touch the
That's a-
budget.
Oh,
Let
you
them
If they're
talk
gonna
about
do
how
it,
they
if
want
they're
it.
gonna,
Okay.
if they're
You
gonna,
wanna
you know,
talk
and they
about
can
VE.
give a brief presentation about who they are, because they're gonna do that anyways,
Right,
right? And that's plenty of ground to cover in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
plenty, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to cover. I mean, you could spend 20 minutes on any one of those
I
questions
know.
if you wanted to do it thoroughly.
Okay.
How about what
Well,
they can see as concerns that maybe we haven't seen or addressed?
Well, that was one of Margaret's first
Yeah,
questions, is
yeah.
what do you consider the biggest challenge of the
Challenge, yeah.
project?
Yeah, that would be the first question
Yeah.
that I would like to.
Unless you wanna go more structured, you wanna,
So is this one of our
I think it's
10
one of your
questions?
9 or 10 is what I
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah. that's a
I
good
don't know
question.
whether challenge is the appropriate word. It could be that staffing is their challenge or something but I want to see what physical or structural or time-wise, what they see, what their concerns are in that realm.
Okay. I can reword that.
But you can submit questions to Andrea,
Right.
so that we can get them on to the,
Are
You
any of
consider-
these acceptable? What you want, well, we could just, I can put this out on an email and then we can respond back and add to.
Yeah, do that, because then we can give you some questions, and then maybe you can distribute it to the rest of the members here, and then we can narrow it down to no more than, I mean, if we only got 45 minutes and 10 questions, might be too many. So if we can get it down to 8 or 9, 8 maybe.
Should we plan on arriving a little before 1 so we can sort of get settled and go over the format of who's gonna ask what?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and remember, the reason this process in particular was set up is it's not as rigid, okay, as the other process, right? Because the idea here is that it's different, right? This is much more of a collaborative effort. And so, you guys should feel free, to make sure that you have, even, you have those questions. If you have other ones, ask them. Because it's not necessarily, where, you're thinking about things if you were putting out a design bid build contract and, everything is exactly the same for everybody. That's not the case here. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
And that's why we chose it. And so, the biggest thing here is to walk away with a sense of comfort of what these people are all about. Like them, don't like them, kind of like them, whatever it is. That's the biggest part.
Are we talking finances as well at that meeting, or the percentage or whatever they're gonna charge, or is
No.
that done?
No.
It's
No.
done after, right?
Yep, they're gonna make a proposal in terms of their fee,
Oh, they're gonna actually
right?
tell us.
It's gonna, it's gonna come through in the proposal,
Yep.
but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
So, it's not like, why is it that? It just is.
yeah,
And then, we're gonna go through and do all of that, and then we're gonna evaluate that in terms of, the kind of the presentation and what was your takeaway on that?
yeah.
And then we're gonna look at the fee, and again, as part of this process, because it is intended to be different, you don't have to take the lowest price, right? And the reason for that is because they want you to go and say, who do you think is the best fit?
Yeah, well, if one company has 8 guys and one has 15, you know right away that there's some cost there too.
Yeah.
so. But the 15 might be the way to
Yeah.
go, or the 8 might be the way to go. Now, we're gonna also tell them not to make any presentations.
We can. That's
because that means setup and
just
delay.
boards,
and-
or do you want just handouts,
I don't know, I mean,
or not, anything?
well, we want information, but I guess
Why restrict it?
well, because it's, setting up all the stuff and,
They're just gonna come in with most of them are gonna come in with a PowerPoint type presentation. Just like, you did for design and for OPM.
do you think we need that, or? Michelle, what do you think?
Well, would we hold it in here?
Yeah, I've always seen.
The other
it, but-
conference room
Typ-
has.
That's it, is the other
typically-
conference room
Technology.
Typically, that's
We've
what,
done it that
that's
way.
what we
Yeah.
say.
We allow them at 8 to 10,
Yeah. Because
To do whatever.
to do what they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna give you some insight too, and just
Yeah.
in terms of, how they present, how well they present.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
We get
these
a lot of
guys,
public
very well
meetings.
may be
Yeah.
helping you present at town meeting,
Town meeting,
Right.
yeah.
right? And so, their level of sophistication in terms of all of that, how they integrate, how they speak, all of that stuff counts.
Yeah.
And as Christine said earlier, that somebody asks a question and somebody hears something and they have a follow-up.
Yeah,
We're all free to ask that follow-up.
Yep.
I would suggest that you should be, yeah.
Just 15 minutes between each interview, so I think that would be adequate time for that. I mean, shouldn't take them more than 5 minutes to
Right,
set up.
and the other conference room, if that's what we decide, has the whole setup with
We
technology.
just tell them be prepared to pack up and set up.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they
They're used to
and
that.
they
Used to
will.
that, yeah.
These guys
That's what they
know what
do.
they're doing.
no laser light show.
No, we don't.
No
let
strobe
that.
lights.
They're not that sophisticated.
So we're gonna think of some questions and send them
Yep.
off to you, and then you can probably put
I'll
a
start,
you can get whoever sends, and then say, hey, I think this is a consensus of a good question to ask, and narrow it down to no more than 10, I wouldn't think.
yeah.
Well, let's set a specific time frame so that we don't,
Right, send it to you after.
people know that we have to get this done
Yeah.
and quickly.
Questions to Andrea by when?
How about,
1 week.
No, you wanna go that far?
what's the 20, where am I? I don't even know.
For that interview?
See, I don't even know what day we are.
Oh.
I'm saying
17th?
21st?
Monday or Tuesday, I was thinking,
Yeah.
but then you know,
Yeah.
you know what you're gonna ask, just send them
22nd,
off.
no later than the 22nd?
22nd?
November 22nd,
Yeah.
That
yes.
sounds good.
Right
And
before
then
the
you
holiday?
can get back to us with the final draft of or the
Sounds
draft
good.
of what you think of the 10, and we say yeah or no.
Oh, and by the way, we did receive the OIG application approval.
Yes,
Oh, good,
Yes.
good.
I wasn't sure if that was.
we did.
I didn't know that.
Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it.
She just sent a text when she wasn't supposed to be.
I hate to see my name on all of these documents.
You're a very important
We're all
person.
bad.
All right, I think that covers
Okay.
it.
So we can probably adjourn, I think.
Motion?
Have pizza, right?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Super.
Let's eat.
Let's see, yeah.